It's interesting because we get to find out loads of shit we don't know about people.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, well, like I've been looking at your page and that to like kind of get to know more about you in like preparation for this. And Lee just comes in here and just like bangs out the fact that you fought Josh Taylor, and I could not like get my head around that in the like in your amateur career and stuff like that. And yeah, like I feel like
curveball.
Yeah, like I knew that obviously like you're an elite athlete and stuff like that, but it was just I don't realize until like people actually get here like how far in the sports and that they actually are, especially like just for the area. It's kind of like whoa, you know what I mean? Like because we're always kind of not to like put like a downer on the area, but we're always kind of like
made we always go back to when we first seen Aiden fighting on TV.
And
and you're like, holy fuck,
that's a guy from Elgin.
We know that guy and he's on telly like he's fucking fighting. I suppose it'll be pretty much for yourself soon because it's going to be TV fights soon.
Hopefully, well, I actually had to pull out the next weekend.
All right, okay.
Disappointing, very disappointing, unforeseen circumstances. But I'm hoping to get on the Beach Ballroom show in Aberdeen on the 25th of June, which is televised on Fight Zone TV.
Yeah, is this like a new app that's came out? Yeah, it's kind of like The Zone, if you will.
Kind of. Yeah. It's a promoter down south called Dennis Hobson that's started it up.
Just pull the mic a bit closer to your face, mate. There we go.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's a promoter from down the road that's set up. It's great. I was on it before. I fought on it on the 29th of October last year at the Trump Turnberry Resort.
Yeah.
For my fourth pro fight.
Does that kind of help you? Like, do you normally have your fights recorded by someone?
I try and get all the fights recorded to then go back and see what we need to. See where
you can improve and stuff like that. Aye,
that's sweet.
So when we were texting in kind of preparation for this, you were saying had the fight gone ahead next weekend, it was kind of setting you up for like a Scottish title opportunity. Is that still going to be the plan going into?
That is still the plan. So the Aberdeen show, it's only 4 weeks later. So just relaxed a bit this week so that I can pick up the training again for the next 4 weeks. And then hopefully towards the end of the year, maybe October, November, might be in the running for the Scottish title.
Is that been frustrating with you, like all these kind of cancellations and that? Because that's happened a few times over the last few years, obviously to do with like the pandemic and stuff like that as well.
It is incredibly frustrating.
Because you were meant to headline a show in Elgin again, like
I was
literally
meant to
days.
On the when was it? It was basically the weekend before
the whole stay-at-home order and that,
lockdown, which was I was actually recovering from a broken hand as well. But I sold a lot of tickets and it was going to be a good show. But then obviously COVID hit. Yeah.
And did they try and I think I maybe heard about something in late 2020 as well. They tried to set something up in Elgin again.
We were trying. But nobody knew. Nobody knew. My promoter didn't want to go and book a show and start getting everything ready for it for then just to be told no.
Yeah.
We can't do it. So that was my last fight was September 2019. Then we were preparing for March 2020. Then COVID hit, and I didn't fight until October 21. So
there's like a 2 year kind of layoff.
It was 2 years out the ring, which was frustrating.
Yeah. So is that like kind of got you in the mindset now? Obviously, it's unfortunate that next week isn't going ahead as planned, but to like make up for lost time in a sense of
exactly. I still want to have at least 2 fights this year. Hopefully 3, ending in the Scottish title, and then after the Scottish title, we'll see where we go.
What was it like headlining a show in Elgin? Because for people that don't know, that was the first pro boxing event in Elgin for about 80 years, which is madness.
It's crazy.
Was that a show that was set up around you specifically, or was it just right place, right time kind of thing?
When I turned pro in 2018 with my team in Aberdeen, the Northern Sporting Club, I said to them, he asked me if I had any like goals or like aspirations to do in my pro career. I said, well, I'd love to headline a show in Elgin. And that was kind of, we were actually meant to fight in August in Aberdeen, and that show got cancelled. And then he says, right, I've got some good news. I can get the town hall booked for so-and-so date in September. Do you want to do it? And I says, fucking right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Jesus, man.
So that was good. We had, there was 4 fights on the card. There was an Irish lad, and then there was my teammate Ben Bartlett. He made his debut, and then my other teammate Callum Stewart, and then I topped the bill in the 6th round.
But did you have like tons of like your friends and family? I mean, it sounds like a bit of a stupid question to be honest, but like was there like a kind of catch-22 with that? Because obviously you're buzzing, you get to have tons of people there to watch you fight that you know, and that. But is there also like a kind of sense of pressure that
yeah. I was always confident it wasn't going to happen, but I think I sold about 200 tickets, I think, to it, and then there was about 350 people in the town hall. And the way we had the ring, like, it was on the floor, so there was VIP tables on the stage, and then all around the ring. And then once they had their meals, then they let in the balcony seats.
Mm-hmm.
So you walk down onto the floor and up into the ring, and you just look up, and then everyone's just round the top. They're all looking down over the balcony. It was like, I don't know if you ever watched any boxing footage at York Hall.
Yeah, it's like really close and on top.
It was like that. So
it was quite an atmosphere as well, because I've seen some of the videos. You know, it's a local atmosphere. Does that make things easier for you, as we're saying, like an atmosphere like that, or is it harder to concentrate?
It's difficult because you want to go in and you want to keep the game plan, stay on form, and like box well. But when you've got a crowd like that behind you, it's very easy to get caught up in the
moment kind of thing.
Try and fight.
How much in an atmosphere like that? How much can you hear what's going on with your coach? Or you just kind of focus on what you do? You know what you're doing yourself.
You try and focus, but there's like certain bits. Something like the crowd will start doing something. I think they were banging on the rafters, chanting Smarty as well, and then you get like a hear of that, but then you have to try and fight it and just stay focused
in the moment. What was it like when you won? Like you kind of overcame that hurdle, and like there's like most people are there for you and stuff like that. That must have been
well, the fight itself was really good. The first 4 rounds, I went out and I boxed his head off.
Mm-hmm.
That won me the fight, and then the last 2 rounds, I probably still won them, but the crowd probably got a little better. Probably got the better of me a little bit, and I tried to stand and fight with him.
I suppose that's understandable, just because it's still the early days in your pro career, and that being in that kind of environment.
That's it.
I think the official score, I can't remember the official scorecard, but it was 4 rounds to me, 1 even, and then 1 to the guy.
So how did over the going back to like the 2-year layoff just for a second, when that kind of happened, like obviously it was frustrating, and that did that kind of ever impact like your mental health, kind of the not being able to do what like you love doing and want to kind of continue in the sport?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it affected everybody, but I did also feel like it was good for me to get a proper break, because I'd been training solid pretty much for the 10 years prior to that. So then but at the same time, not knowing if I was ever going to box again, because in lockdown, the first one anyway, I put on a lot of weight. I put on about 3 stone, and I thought there was some times that I thought I wasn't going to box again, but I just had to. I wasn't going to finish my pro career after 3 fights and not headline another show in Elgin or fight for a Scottish title in Elgin.
Do you think it was just because of the devastation, like you go from like such highs to such lows, I mean in the sport anyway, but just in this kind of unique period of time where you were back to headlining another show in your hometown again, that had been taken away, and you'd had the broken hand in that at the time as well?
Yeah, I mean, you get so excited and you work towards, like this, especially this one, this fight that just got cancelled last weekend. I'd been training solid for about 8 or 9 weeks. I'm back at Elgin Boxing Club full time now. I'm back with my old amateur coach, Ratch. I can say what I want about him. He's probably not going to watch this. I've been just really enjoying it. Just to be back in Elgin with, like, especially just like a family. enjoying training again, back with Ratch, the team. Doing a lot of training at CrossFit Moray and Lossy as well. But you're so excited and focused towards this thing, and then to have to withdraw, you do take a little bit of a hit.
Yeah.
But then for me, the chance of fighting on the ballroom show's there, so that keeps me back to it, because it would be far too easy just to think, fuck it.
Like, do you think if that hadn't presented itself, that you might have went into a slump of like, you know, to hit, like, not give it up totally, but like in a period of like,
going to bare knuckle.
You know, fuck this off for a bit, and like I'll come back to it. You know what I mean? Because I think in like sports like these, it's important to keep momentum up. Just
definitely,
you know,
it definitely is. Yeah, I'm quite fortunate because I just taken over the kart track at Lambride, so that's my work now, and then I don't usually start till 11 o'clock in the morning. We take
so there's like a
from
good
12,
bit of headroom.
So I can train well in the morning. Before, when I worked at Sheriff Mill, I was having to go to the gym at 6 in the morning to get a session in, and then come home, work for 9 hours, and then train again at night. But I'm quite fortunate. I can pretty much train like a full-time athlete.
Can we touch on you just mentioned Ratch there, and last year he won BBC Sports Unsung Hero of the Year award. Obviously, like, it would be a stupid question to ask if he's had an influence on like your boxing game and your career and stuff like that. But do you think he's just been like a massive influence in like in terms of your life and you as a person?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been training with Elgin since I was 14. Is when I started boxing. I had my first fight when I was 15, and Ratch has been my coach all the way through.
Is it just Ratch? It's there as your main boxing coach?
Ratch is the head coach. There's Ian Goldie as well. He's he's also been at the club for. Those are the guys that deserve all the credit for everyone at the club. Really,
absolutely.
They're the ones that deserve the credit, and there's also the other ones as well. There's been a few coaches that aren't at the club anymore. All of them as well. They still put in the work. But nice. Ratch was kind of a father figure to me for he is. He calls me the son that he never wanted.
So one way to put it.
That's kind of how it is.
Because one thing that comes across, like,
we don't always see eye to eye, but that's always going to be the case.
That's just relationships for you, though, isn't it? Like, in terms of being around people.
He loves me, really.
But like in that segment that the BBC done on him, like the one thing that like clearly comes through is just his like dedication and work ethic to what he does.
There's no one that'll even come close.
Because like he's a full-time electrician, and like someone was saying in the video, like he'll come back, have something to eat, and then we'll be straight into the boxing club, and at the weekend he'll be away with fighters
he's
and whatnot.
He's at the club on, I think it's Monday. Monday's there for 2 hours, Tuesday's there for 2 hours, Thursday's there for 2 hours in the nights. There's the kids' class, the women's class, and then the boxing class on Tuesday and Thursday.
I mean, dedication.
It's the same with Goldie. If Goldie, the two of them, really.
So why did you take up boxing in the first place? You said 14, which some people say like 18's like late to get into it. Like I think of even like people like Anthony Joshua. Did he not start boxing like 18? And like obviously, so like what was the kind of the trigger that made you want to go?
It's a funny story. It's not really anything special. Governor, taxi driver.
All right, Elgin,
I was friends with his son Jamie, and Governor was going to take Jamie to boxing, but basically he didn't want to go on his own. All right, okay. So I went along with him. That's it.
Is that like quite surreal?
I just got hooked.
That's the way you got into it. Now that you're like trying to compete for like these like massive honours and stuff like that in the sport, like
pretty much. It's weird. It's like just.
How many amateur fights have you had, Smarty?
50.
50 amateur fights, and what's your record from that? 50?
About 20. 30 wins, 20 losses, that kind of stuff. But amateur boxing, especially grassroots level, it's most fights are 50-50.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy that you hear like in the program though.
And even the ones that aren't 50-50, sometimes you think you clearly won, but you don't always get.
Does that depend on a lot of home shows and things like that? Yeah, that's.
Does that ever kind of like worry you going forward in your career? Because like.
That's another thing that will really put people down, and boxing is riddled with it. It's corruption.
Yeah.
Like having the fight, you put your body through the ringer for could be up to like 3 months before a fight, preparing for this, and then putting in a good performance, and then just having it ripped away from you.
Yeah.
And it's already kind of been set in stone what the result was before the fight even took place. Like, I mean, just to give an example, a few weeks ago, Canelo got beat by Dimitri Bivol. And I was surprised that Bivol clearly won, but I was surprised that they went against Canelo because it's happened
I was actually surprised at that, to be honest.
You know,
but
there's only so long that donkey can go, there, isn't there?
Because
Bivol put on a masterclass.
Yeah,
he really did. But I think Canelo will win the rematch.
Yeah, I think Canelo's been kind of picking and choosing what he's wanted to do for like the last 3-4 years now, just going up and down,
but
up and
if
down.
you look at Canelo's record in the last year, he fully unified the super middleweight division by fighting and beating every champion and taking the belt.
Yeah.
So he beat 4 super middleweight world champions in the space of a year to fully unify it, which is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the dude's a savage, right? He's fought everywhere from like 154 up to 175.
175.
Yeah, regardless of the corruption, the guy's a savage.
Yeah. You know,
is there anyone
and
you
he's beat them well?
Yeah.
It's not as if like he's won a dodgy decision or whatever. He smashed them
like
all
he
to
stopped
bits.
people as well, yeah, like Billy Joe Saunders and Kovalev as well, yeah.
There's so kind of speaking about boxers and things. Is there anyone can you base your style off of? Is there anyone you watch and you think, that's kind of what I want to do?
I always try and watch like different fighters to see to get ideas but I don't think I could say I boxed like any particular fighter.
Mm-hmm. Do you think like people can look into that stuff too much sometimes? Like, I need to base my style off of this, yeah. So like, are you someone that just like is obsessed with the sport as well, whether you're fighting or just like watching someone else's fight, if you know what I mean? Like, do you watch most boxing matches that are available on like the TV and stuff like that?
Yeah, there's normally always boxing on at home.
Yeah.
Like tonight, there's a DAZN card on Craig Richards versus Joshua Buatsi. That's on tonight.
Yeah, that's Anthony Joshua's protege, Buatsi, isn't he? I'm sure that I've seen him fighting a few of the undercards.
Teammates they weren't teammates at the Olympics. Buatsi was a medalist at the 2016.
And Joshua was London, wasn't he? 2012, yeah. So like, when you end up getting the Scottish title fight in that, is that something that could potentially happen in Elgin, or are you going to have to travel?
We are looking at it.
Oh man, that would be.
Who has the Scottish title just now?
The Scottish title at super lightweight and welterweight are both vacant.
Also, it would be like,
it's the welterweight one that I'm looking at, which I very nearly got a shot at on the 13th of May at the Hydro. But I spoke to my
what a plot.
Like I found out that one of the fighters that were going to be competing for it had to pull out. So there was a boy left without an opponent. So I phoned my manager and we talked about getting me on, but we ultimately decided we could wait and put on that show in Elgin.
That would be absolutely madness if that like comes off, you know. Like, I mean, it'd be such great for the area as well. You know?
Well, it wouldn't, like the Elgin show wouldn't just be me as well. We got Fraser Wilkinson as well from Elgin, the Houtman. So he'll be knocking on the door of a title pretty soon as well. He's 3-0 now. He's boxing next weekend as well.
So is his fight still going ahead?
The show's still going ahead. It's just I've had to withdraw from mine.
You mentioned Ben Bartlett as well. He's a teammate. He's a professional as well, isn't he?
He's signed with Northern Sporting Club.
Yeah,
he trains out at Highland Boxing Academy and everything.
So is Northern Sporting Club, that's just the promotion, is it?
So it's my manager, my manager and promoter. I was coached by them as well, but now I'm back.
All right, okay.
When I first turned pro, I trained a lot in Aberdeen.
So like, how does the promoting stuff come about? Is that just when you turn pro, or did you have a promoter during the amateur career as well?
It's just when you turn pro, you sign with a like a manager and promoter, and they get you the fights.
Do you, is it kind of surreal, kind of weird, like having to turn up to a suit in these like type of things when it's like to do with promotion and that and signing contracts and all that type of stuff that comes with it?
Well, it's the whole contract signing thing. That's all like when you see it on the TV, if they're signing, it's all fake. It's already.
Yeah.
I signed my pro contract in their old gym in Aberdeen. But yeah, and then we had the show. They had the show on, I think it was the 1st of September that year. And I was obviously at the show. I was on a table, and then we got a bit of paper that had like some writing on it, and then we just staged the photo that I was signing the contract. But it was already signed and sealed.
Yeah. Is that like almost an annoying side of the sport, that kind of stuff of the whole? I know it needs to be done in that, but just kind of like we had Aidan Stephen on a few weeks ago, and he was saying that like he just can't be arsed with like the talking side of things. You know what I mean? He just wants to get in there and fight. Are you kind of in that similar kind of mind frame?
Yeah, but it's just a thing with boxing that's always been. It's never going to change. Like you could harp on for hours about what needs changed in boxing. It'll never change.
No, it's just because it's such a, it's a sport that's been around for hundreds of years now. You know what I mean? It's these kind of sports are like in their roots, and there's just things that you're never going to be kind of able to edit, I would imagine. See, when I've kind of wanted to ask this, and we've had a few combat sports guys on, and I haven't really asked this properly yet. When you knock someone out for the first time, whether that be in training, sparring, or a fight or whatever, is that a weird feeling? Is that like when you, even though you're kind of training for that, is that kind of like, just?
I'm going to enhance that question as well. Like breaking someone's nose or something, you think, is that not nasty when you fucking do that?
Some people might not like it or but if anyone says they don't get excited by like hurting someone, then they're lying.
It's true though, isn't it? Yeah, like it might come across
that sounds really.
Some people
really,
would say that's like evil, but it's the truth though, isn't it? Like,
but yeah, no, when like. If you're sparring and you land a good punch or you drop someone, it does make you feel good, and it does give you that buzz. You think, and then it also says that the things that we're working on, they're starting to show.
Mm-hmm. So how many more? It's 2 fights or 1.
I don't actually like hurting people.
No. There is a difference though in it, because it's not like you leave the boxing club and you're just doing that to people on the street and that, right? It's like in a controlled environment with rules and an official and everything.
Do you find a good head punch or a good body shot's more satisfying?
Body shots.
Yeah, they always say that.
I've always heard that. Like I don't know why is that, Smarty? Like
I don't know. I would say I'm a body puncher. Like left hook to the body, that's probably my favourite punch. But I don't know. I don't know if it's just you feel the punch land and then you can see just all the energy just drain from them, and they just I don't know.
The battery pack just goes
dead. It's away. I've heard some mad rumours about you training, doing all sorts of funky shit, like running up Lady Hill with weights in your bag and things like that. Are you still doing that?
I've done some stuff like that.
A lot of hill sprints and things like that. Is that still the case for being a professional, or was that more just kind of your amateur days?
No, it still needs to be done. We do different types of training at different stages in the training camp. So like at the start of the training camp, you want to build your like aerobic base, so you have a good solid like fitness foundation, and then towards the end of your camp, we focus more on the sprints and so you can get your heart rate up, and you can sustain it, and then you can recover faster as well.
Short bursts. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So like my training would go from sort of like a long sustained run early in the camp to sort of 15 seconds sprint, 45 seconds rest, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So I take it like the kind of technique training that's built around both that set of like fitness kind of regimes as well. Like that's just something that's constantly through. Like what does a camp look like? Is it how many weeks is it? Like do you have much input into it, or do you leave it to your coaches to kind of?
12 weeks normally is kind of the ideal length time for a camp.
Mm-hmm.
It also depends on like how long your fight's going to be. Like 4 round, you wouldn't need as long a camp for a 4 round fight as you would for an 8 round fight or like a title fight, 10 round title fight.
Is that what the Scottish title
Scottish
fight
title,
would be 10 rounds?
It's weird because the British Boxing Board controllers, all the different areas in Britain. So there's like the southern area or the central, I think it's central area, Midlands, whatever. But they class Scotland as an area. So
it has like
it's called the Scottish area title.
So like going on from like the Scottish title would then be to then go on to British, so on and so on. But
if you win the Scottish title, it would boost your rankings. But it's all about getting like points and getting in line for shots at various titles. It might not be the British we go for; it could be the Commonwealth that you go for after, or there's a Celtic title as well.
Yeah.
Is that the same? Is your Scottish titles kind of the same as your world titles? Does that come with like mandatory defences, or is that just the case that a gateway to another title? Yeah,
it'd be like a gateway.
Okay.
So like, I've lost my train of thought there. Do you want to pick up on something again? I'm sorry, I was going to ask something, but
so I kind of want to ask the difference between pros and amateurs. Like, is there that massive swing of difference? I know when you get to your early stage of your pro career, you're not fighting the top guys straight away.
Yeah.
Whereas towards the end of your career, or your amateurs, you're probably fighting the top guys at that weight in amateur. Is there a massive difference between the two?
So the amateur, up until recently, well, I think it was 2014, it was points scoring. And the way that it was scored in amateur boxing was point scoring, and it was stupid. It was a horrible way to score a fight because, like, the gloves would have white dots on the knuckles, and then the judges would just sit there with a clicker
on, like, click
and
every
if they've
time.
seen a punch land, they would click it, or like in the later stages, they would do the computer scoring. So you would press the button if you've seen a punch land, but all the judges had to press the button within a certain amount, like in a
certain amount of time,
within a second of each other for that score to be registered. And then you would see fighters that you would think clearly dominated the fight, to then it's scored like 10 points to 2 against them. But they've changed that to the 10-point master system. They've changed it to the pro style scoring as well.
So does that take like ring control and stuff like that into account in that as well? Yeah.
Like pretty much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you win the round, you get 10 points.
So it's like round, 10, 9. Yeah. And then there's like a knockdown of that 10-8, 10-7, just exactly like the pro game. So in your amateur career, you fought Josh Taylor, which Lee told me this just before you came by, and I was kind of like in utter shock because, like I was just saying before we started, like I don't realize like how kind of deep in the sport the combat sport athletes are up here until like they're actually hearing you hear these things. How was it like fighting that kind of caliber of fighter, obviously with what he's went on to do in terms of being like...
Where was he at in his career by the time you fought him, Smarty?
Well, it was the year before he turned pro, because I'll explain the whole story. It was 2014 Scottish Championships, and this was my first year as a senior going into the championships. The first time I'd entered the elite championship. So I won my quarterfinal fight, and then it was the semi-finals were 3 weeks later is when I fought Taylor. And he, by that time, he was already, I think he'd been to the Youth Commonwealth Games and won a bronze medal. He'd won a silver medal at the Delhi Games. He was a 2012 Olympian as well. And then he'd obviously boxed all over the world with Team Scotland, and he was on Team GB as well. And this championships that year was billed as like a qualifying event for the Commonwealth Games, the 2014 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, which then he went on to win. And then he won gold at the Games as well. Don't think he lost a round in any of his fights up and through the...
That's insane, like, yeah.
As you were fighting him, could you tell like the high caliber of the dude that was in front of you? Yeah. Was that demoralizing in a way, or was it an inspiration for you to get?
If you ask anyone that's seen the fight, like I just went in and just tried to kill him. I just gave him no respect at all. Where some people might they might have got, what's the word you'd be looking for, starstruck or hesitant or something, because but no, I just went for him.
Yeah. Did you know about like who he was before going in to fight him and that? Did you just like, I don't care, I'm going to take him out?
And I even seen when the entries were released, I seen his name on it, and I'm like, oh, I could fight him.
Yeah. Was that always something that you relished at that period of time, just kind of being young into the sport and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah. And that was my second senior fight, I think. It was my second. That was also the year that they removed head guards for male elite amateur boxers. That was my second fight without a head guard. And I was like, I think it was like my 21st or 22nd fight that I'd ever had. And he was sitting on like 150 fights.
How does that matchmaking work if you've only had like 20 and he's like at
100? There's different like categories. There's novice, there's the novice championships you can enter, which I won twice. You 0 to 6 fights, and then there's intermediates, which I also won, for 7 to 14. But then over 14 is open class.
Yeah.
So
anything goes Wild West when you get past 40.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
Club shows and like that sort of thing, you would work out with, like, your coach would work out with the other opponent's coach, that it would be like evenly matched. But when you're going into like a championship like that, it's anything goes, really.
How did you feel after that experience? Was that something that you took a lot away from in terms of learning going forward?
Yeah, definitely.
What was the result of the fight, Smarty?
Josh Taylor TKO round 2. My coach Ratch threw in the towel. I wasn't getting battered. He actually hit me low. There's footage of it somewhere. For ages, Boxing Scotland used this clip as like a highlight reel for all the fighters that were going into the finals of that year championships. And he hits me low and my feet come off the ground because he hit me that hard.
Christ.
Below the belt.
Jesus.
But it's quite the angle that it was like shot at. It looks like it could have been a body shot, but it wasn't.
No, Jesus, man.
But he was lining that punch up, because the next time he threw it, he just lifted it up a bit and he hit me in the solar plexus and then put me down.
Yeah. So you don't think it was intentional, the one that he put low?
He was just lining it up. Yeah, it wasn't intentional, definitely.
So you didn't like hold any kind of disdain towards him or anything afterwards? No. So like we we're just talking about, you took that and used it as like a learning experience, obviously kind of real. Do you think every professional athlete goes through a moment like you were saying, they've seen him as like, you know, he's a really well accoladed fighter, I'm going to take him out, and then somewhat in a way kind of get humbled that it doesn't go the way they expect it, and that makes them better in their career going forward? Especially seeing what he's done from that and becoming a world champion and what he's doing
Undisputed as well.
Although his last decision was a bit
I think deep down he knows that as well. I think after that fight he got a lot of shit that he didn't deserve.
Yeah, no, it wasn't him that made the decision happen, was it? So
no, but an argument to that, I think his attitude towards Jack Catterall since that fight hasn't been great.
Yeah, he's been taking shots at him on social media and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not that he boxed bad, it's just Catterall boxed a lot better on the night, like,
And that's what happens.
It's one of these things. Boxing is obviously a very subjective thing. A lot of the American guys that were watching that fight, like Andre Ward, they had Taylor winning. Nobody here did. But they had Taylor winning
because it was in the Hydro, wasn't it? So it was like literally in his front doorstep, and you could even see in the audience a little bit. It was like, what?
Yeah, nobody really understood. Going with training and things, how close are you to fight weight when you're not training? Are you massively off?
No, I was. I didn't. It's weird. It's a weird one. I'm closer to my fight weight now than I have been at any other like stage in my training camp.
Is that like a mad cut or do you cut gradually?
I would never. You see these boys in sauna suits and wrapping themselves in covers and going to sleep, and I enjoy a run in a sauna suit, but it's purely just to sweat. I would never like cut weight.
Deplete your body
Really badly. I mean, I do occasionally have like the salt bath to just get that little bit off, but
it's not for like 10 more pounds and stuff like that. Yeah.
No.
Just
it's dangerous that though, isn't
yeah.
it? You know,
and I think it is something that it's avoided in boxing with the amount of weight classes they have. I think they've kind of got it better than the other combat sports where there's a big jump between like weight classes and stuff like that. Like some's like 10, 15 pounds and whatnot.
That's where, because I think there's 16 or 17 weight categories now in professional boxing. It goes from like 115 pounds, I think, is the lowest one, and then heavyweight is over 200. 200 pounds.
That's mad. Have you ever had any thoughts about MMA, or is it just strictly boxing?
No, I did. I used to train with the guys, like Thai boxing, and did like a couple of jit sessions. I did enjoy it, but for me, it was boxing was where I was at. That's what I liked.
So is that what do you think is the main difference between like the two? Because like one thing that I see constantly just on social media is the fans go at each other. Like there doesn't seem to be a happy medium where people can accept someone can like both sports.
Well, let's just ask Smarty's view on Mayweather McGregor.
Yeah.
Because we've heard it from an MMA side, we've never heard it from a boxing side. So
it was a circus. But anyone who thought that McGregor was going to beat Mayweather is delusional.
Yeah. And there was a lot of people that thought that as well.
Floyd Mayweather, he was undefeated. He was 12-time world champion. He was 5-weight world champion, Olympic medalist, elite athlete, like literally the best of the best. Trained every day. Always kept himself in top condition. And there's this mad Irishman comes along and says that he's gonna outbox him or.
Yeah, he talks wild, doesn't he?
and whatever he talks a good game, to be honest. And in the fight, it happened exactly how I thought it was going to happen as well. I thought McGregor might start well, but he's shown in his fights that he doesn't really have a gas tank.
No.
So, and that's what Mayweather did. He let him gas himself out, and then the last 3 rounds of that fight, they were hard to watch.
Like, I remember some people that were in like the pub the next night talking to me about that fight and talking about, because in the fight McGregor gets TKO but there's not like a knockdown in it, and they were like kind of struggling to see how that fight gets stopped without a knockdown. But just from hearing it from the
fighter's health is obviously and he didn't get knocked down, but he was taking a beat.
Yeah, and it was just going to continue for 9 minutes. And like in boxing, like shit gets serious from like 0 to 100 real quick, even when like people are standing and stuff like that.
First time I'd ever bit to a comment online, I replied to this comment. I said, fights have been stopped for less and they've still been the right decision. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like taking punches to the face isn't intelligently defending yourself.
No.
I mean,
too many unanswered punches.
Yeah. And like he was just getting beat into a corner, right? And it was like
he was just getting beaten across the ring.
Yeah.
Like Mayweather he started off trying to box him, but then as soon as he seen that McGregor had lost the gas,
it was just no respect.
He had his hands up and he just walked him down and just punished him.
And it showed because a lot of people that were in the boxing realm were, they weren't worried obviously, but it was in the sense of if like McGregor had won that fight, obviously as impossible as it was, it would have like said to them in a way that what they'd been taught over the years meant nothing really. Do you know what I mean? Like where obviously the actual science behind the game, proved true.
Yeah, there's no doubting that as we've said, you'd be mad to think.
It's the same thing. McGregor wasn't a boxer before he was an MMA fighter. He was only an amateur level though. But if Mayweather was then to go and fight McGregor in the octagon, then what's going to happen? McGregor would shoot for the takedown and probably ground and pound his face. Really.
Exactly. And
do you feel the same about Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou? Do you think that's going to be the same? He's just going to get his head boxed off?
Ngannou?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like.
It's like, I just...
Ngannou's obviously he's an incredible athlete and his improvements in the last few years have been... But He's Tyson Fury.
He's unreal.
I mean, he's conquered so much in his life, just life in general. Not even just the
way he
wins
moves
in boxing.
about, the way he moves about and moves his head. And
he's
he's got no right to do that.
6'9", 270 pounds, something like that. Yeah,
20 stone. He moves like that.
Yeah. What do you think? That's what. Because for a period in time, people were saying that boxing was like dead for a while. You know, like it said that it lacked characters and stuff like that. Whereas I see people like Tyson Fury, and it's like boxing's not dead. Like I remember watching those 3 Deontay Wilder fights.
I feel there's certain divisions that are dead.
Yeah, but that always happens though. I think that's just life cycle.
Yeah, as you say, it happens.
There are exciting fighters in every division, but not all of them have like that marquee fighter.
Yeah, like the dance partner to kind of make the name.
Like welterweight, you've got Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. They're like the two, and like middleweight, you've got Golovkin, Canelo, whatever weight class he decides he wants to be in. Yeah.
Like, do you think that's like the frustrating thing about boxing to me? Is like just watching it as a fan is like they can never seem to get the fights that need to happen made when they need to happen.
Yeah,
like everyone said that about the Mayweather Pacquiao one.
Fight was not 10 years too late.
Because it was around
5 years too late.
Yeah, 5 years too late, 2010.
Because it actually was scheduled to happen, and then it got cancelled for whatever. I can't remember.
Yeah, there seems to be like it's just politics between the promotions, right? Like, I listened to something and I think it was Teddy Atlas, who's fantastic by the way.
Teddy Atlas,
yeah, one of my favorite people to listen to. But he was talking about.
Have you seen his "We Are Firemen" speech?
Yeah, with Timothy Bradley. That is incredible. You know, like there's one he does with Alexander Povetkin, the Russian guy, and he was fighting for a world title. This is like years ago, and I think his father might have passed away before that fight. But obviously, Alexander Povetkin doesn't speak English. So like Teddy Atlas was going through a translator, like giving him the speech about why he should do it. So that Povetkin like wins the belt, and like it was like a 50-50 split. Who won the last round? Who won the belt? So yeah, dude's a legend, man. But he was talking about the thing that like MMA can have down to a T is the promotional side of things. It's under like a dictatorship, so it's one person choosing who fights who. Whereas in boxing, you've got like Showtime, you've got ESPN, Matchroom.
There's 4 main world titles.
Yeah. Well. Do you think that's something that could be like dealt with in terms of having so many belts, like to have like maybe one champion in a division?
The way it kind of is just now, the one champion in the division would be the undisputed champion.
Yeah.
But even with there's 4 main world title bodies: the IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO. They're the 4 main ones. But each of those have got their own. Like I think the WBA at one point had an interim world champion. Yeah. They had a regular world champion and a super world champion as well.
That's a lot.
So there was 3 world champions
just in one governing body.
One governing body.
Yeah.
One weight class.
Because like. You know, when it has like 5 belts, like one thing that I've always wanted to see, and like, you know, I don't want to like say the heavyweight's the most exciting because I think it's a cliche thing to say, but you know, it was always when I was growing up before kind of the UFC came about and boxing was like the main combat sport to watch on TV. It was the heavyweight championship fight of the world was what you wanted to see. Like like the first one I watched was Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson way back in the day, like 2003.
Because like back in the day, the heavyweight champion of the world was regarded as the baddest man on the planet.
It was the man.
Toughest guy. But now that doesn't make sense. It can't be. It has to be the UFC heavyweight champion because
of the grappling aspect and all that. Yeah. Do you think like because one thing that I notice is like the kind of tribalism of the fans, like people that will watch boxing and don't have any interest in MMA and vice versa, will go at each other constantly, and they just seem to hate on people that like both. Anyway,
I will say something that might not make me so popular.
Okay,
but MMA fans are worse than boxing fans.
Yeah, well,
for that.
Yeah, I think because everyone was kind of on the hype train as soon as the whole McGregor thing got announced. Like he's going to do it and stuff like that. It's like, well, is he though? You know, like
it's like. People think that MMA is the next step after boxing.
Yeah.
Like people have asked me, when are you taking up MMA? That's the next thing to do. So, well, it's not really. It's two different sports.
And I think that the whole crossover thing kind of, it seems like it started something that it can't stop now. The Mayweather-McGregor fight.
Things to me, they don't really make sense.
No,
because
there's not a set of rules that suits both fighters.
No, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
There's always an advantage to one fighter or the other.
Yeah,
you know?
But as soon as you start adding in like boxing is obviously it's punching.
yeah.
And if you were to add in anything else to that,
The advantage
it would
goes the
then
other
make
way.
it mixed martial arts.
Mhm.
As soon as you add anything else in except punching, it just makes it a different sport.
Yeah, because they've even said like the Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou fight should be like boxing, but in like
4-ounce
gloves,
MMA
and
gloves.
it's like, well, that doesn't really make that much of a difference, does it? Like, there's a little bit of less padding and whatnot. Like,
Yeah.
and I think people underestimate because boxers are conditioned to take punches, right? Because they spar so much, and like you said, like that's what they're mainly doing. People don't realize how hard boxers actually hit. Like just because like they'll see them like they'll go through 12 rounds of the call, there's got no power in that compared to like maybe.
I don't even necessarily think it's boxers hit hard. It's boxers hit accurate.
No, yeah, they've been taught that.
You
Yeah.
know. It's kind of leading on from that. Do you get a lot of injuries and things, Smarty? Like a lot of broken hands and that?
I broke my hand in Christmas 2019, but I was fixing my girlfriend's car.
Oh, so it wasn't anything to do with boxing.
I'm a mechanic by trade. Anyway, I was changing the wheel and I slipped. Basically, I slipped and punched the ground.
Oh,
Tarmac road outside my house.
yeah, it's just probably one
big ass hole in the tarmac.
Yeah. Someone over it shouting "one." But like,
it's one of those things that you do it and you just get instant rage with yourself.
Aye.
I seen it. It swelled up instantly.
Did you know straight away that it was broken?
Well, I didn't go to hospital till the next day, but yeah, it was broken. It was the 5th metacarpal was shattered.
Yeah, Jesus, and that would have been like what. I take it you probably had that fight that got cancelled just after the whole lockdown stuff was coming up.
I just started punching again a couple of weeks before the fight. So
how do you kind of game plan around something like that? Because even though you've just started punching around the fight coming up again, like surely you can't be in 100% condition to use it how you would like to use it.
On the lead up to that fight, we worked a lot with the lead hand, jabbing and hooking, and switching stance as well. So I could jab with the sore hand, and then my power punch would be to the left.
Was that difficult? Is that like kind of foreigners? Are you kind of trained at the club to be prepared for anything when you are getting to like the elite level?
Yeah, well, I made a decision. I think it was 2017. I needed a change up in my game, so for almost the whole 2017 season, I boxed as a southpaw.
All right, okay.
I just changed, and then we went to a tournament in Ireland, and I boxed that as a southpaw. So I've been able to, since then, sort of switch between the two stances quite.
Is that a great weapon in your arsenal going forward, do you think, in terms of kind of switching it up and stuff like that, keeping people guessing? Because it does make a difference. Like people say, like, why does it make such a difference? Ones like they always say southpaws are more difficult, or well, it says it in the name, right? Orthodox and whatnot, but it does seem to ring true. Like, I mean, they always say that Mayweather struggled with southpaws, but considering he's never lost, I mean, it's kind of a bit of a rumor that, but
he's never struggled, has he?
No.
He well, there's some boxers that I've came up against. In sparring, if I sparred them in an orthodox stance, then they get the better on me.
Switch
If
up.
I switched as a southpaw, then that's when I do better against them.
Do you think it's just like, is it a range thing? Is it just a different way of standing that look they might not have seen before?
Yeah,
that kind of
but it's all
to
like movements as well, creating angles and.
Because like so much like is a lot of things that people don't think about if they were just watching on the couch, for example. But the amount of kind of technique and thought process that has to go through
I find it quite funny. Sometimes I don't use Twitter for anything other than like following boxing results.
Yeah.
If it's not on the TV, and I'll sit and flick through Twitter and just watch these people who are obviously sat on their sofa with a massive pizza. Saying that he needs to jab more, or he needs to nose more.
That always happens. I think it's because a lot of people, like when they go to combat sports, they drink as well and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
And like everyone's been there, everyone gets a bit overzealous with the had a few. Do you know what I mean? Like, have you ever been like challenged outside the ring because people know you're a fighter?
A couple of times.
Yeah. Is that something that you just laugh off in the sense of like because you are always kind of in the gym and kind of
I
brought to that humble
I
level?
would now.
Yeah.
Like,
Maybe-
when I was like sort of 15 to
Yeah, yeah.
20,
Mhm.
then maybe not. But I just laugh it off now.
Yeah. What I can't get my head around what possesses people to do that sort of
Oh,
thing.
we've got Ginge coming on in a few weeks. Someone that's been in like 70 street fights. So.
Well, even Aiden was saying that guy messaged him after and said,
Yeah, he
I'll
got,
give you a
he got in a
rematch.
street fight with a guy for the RAF, and the guy's messaging him saying, "Oh, give me 3 months of training, I'll fucking fight you." And it's like, oh man,
It's just
what are you
like,
doing?
I just can't understand that thinking in any way, shape, or form. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I've always noticed when I'm watching boxing, you've got some boxers that just don't like to fight. They may be very good technically, but
Yeah.
they don't like a fight. Is that your style? Do you like a fight, or would you prefer to just box a guy's face off?
I'd love to be able to stick to like a game plan and box really well, but a lot of the time I do like to have a fight.
End up in like a bit of a dog fight, yeah.
Do you think that's just something that you're born with? Like,
Yeah,
you
it
can't be
is.
coached that, can you? No.
No.
Like, how do the coaches try and rein that in from you? Because obviously they've got to try and keep you in a frame where you don't get overzealous to the point that it hinders you.
It really used to wind Ratch up.
Mhm.
Like I could go in, I'd be winning the fight, I could be boxing the boy's head off, and then like I'll land a good punch and I'll just get like the tunnel vision.
Yeah.
You just want to go and hurt him essentially.
It's like that whole
So then
sharks.
that gets you excited and it fatigues you, and then it leaves you open, and you end up getting.
Because there's like that adrenaline dump, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think one of the most famous ones that happened recently was when Anthony Joshua fought Andy Ruiz.
Yeah.
And he hurt him and like basically
Just went
tried
for
to
it.
absolutely, you know what I mean? And then obviously the tables flipped
Yeah.
on that. Like, do you ever have that moment where you're thinking to yourself, like, if I do get overzealous here, like it could put me in a bad spot or that? Or is
Yeah.
that something that you just, in that moment, you can't even think about it because the what's the word? Like the adrenaline, the euphoria of that kind of moment is like.
I have learned to control it
Mhm.
better.
Did you have to go out of your way to try and learn that, or is it something that you just did internally?
Basically, a lot of shouting from Ratch.
Yeah.
To him. Yeah.
Is he quite willing to get in your face about things?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Seems like he quite enjoys it probably.
When I first asked him, to be my coach again for this last fight, because he came through and he watched my last fight in Inverness, and he said to me, he says, right, first 2 rounds thought you boxed absolutely brilliant. Third round, fourth round, it just went to shit. He says, we need to stop that. And I thought, right, okay. He says, you need to be on your toes more, and to be fair, I have been boxing a lot better. I've been enjoying it a lot more as well.
Mm-hmm. Is that when you kind of realised when you came in and seen you fight last time that you needed to go back to the
I did.
roots
I needed to be back in Elgin, because like last year before the Turnberry fight, we were actually scheduled to fight in Elgin Town Hall in October last year. I forgot about that, but then the show got cancelled because 3 out of the 5 opponents pulled out.
Just with no explanation, just kind of.
Well, I think one was a failed drug test, and then COVID was another one. But and then I got the opportunity to fight 2 weeks later on the Turnberry show, which I needed to get back in the ring. And then we had Inverness in December as well.
You mentioned someone failing a drug test there. Sometimes the drug testing in boxing can be quite contested because there's different ones, isn't there? Like I know, like in America, I think it's VADA, and there's the Britain does their own kind of one of that.
UK anti-doping.
UCAD or however it says. Have you ever fought someone and like had suspicions? Like, yeah, potentially. No, none at all. Would it make any difference to like? How would you feel if you like ended up losing a fight and someone tested positive afterwards for steroids? Would that?
I don't know. It would depend on like how I lost the fight.
Yeah. Like, do you think?
I've not really thought about that. That's a good question, actually.
Do you think like because like obviously you're putting?
If you win the fight, then
it makes no difference, right? Yeah, just be like.
I suppose like you're not going to feel as bad as if you get absolutely dominated, but if that's a close fight and that's been the difference that. In a fight, then that's gonna.
But even
if you got absolutely dominated, you'd be saying, "Oh, he's juiced out."
Yeah,
like he's got an unfair advantage, which is the truth, right? And You know, to put it not too brutally as well, but like obviously you're putting your health on the line every time you step in there as well. That's the reality of it, and like there has been like
We kind of touched a
injuries
bit
and
on
stuff.
it with Aiden with like some brain scans. Is it the same for yourselves? There's a lot of
Yeah,
that involved.
so I've got to get an MRI scan every year, blood tests, optician's report, all that, and obviously a full doctor's physical, blood pressure, everything.
All right, I'll ask the burning question then. You ever been knocked out?
Yes,
How many times?
once.
Just once. Yeah. What's that like?
It was. I've heard different people's different like their own like stories of how it happened to them. For me, it was an RAF Lossiemouth actually. Top of the bill against a lad Sergio who I'd boxed a couple of years previously, and then second round. I won the first round, was quite happy with how I did. Came out the second round, and I don't know why I did it, but I turned, like I kind of bounced back against the ropes, and I came forward with my hands down, and he fucking plugged me with a left hand. He was a southpaw, and I was like, fucking hell. I was down on my knees, and I was like, right, don't want to get hit with one of them again. So I stood up, got the count, obviously, continued to box. And then I was against the ropes and I pivoted out, but instead of then pivoting out again, I went straight back against the ropes. And he came in, he rolled under a couple of my punches, and I think it was a left hand to the body, right hand to the body, and then he came up with a left hand to the head. And then, like, I remember everything. I remember being in the corner thinking, I should not be here. And it was almost as if it was deja vu. I could almost tell what was going to happen. And he hit me with the left hand, and my legs just disappeared from underneath me, and I hit the deck. And then I'm like looking up at Donald Campbell, he was the referee at the time, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and I go like that to jump up, and he's like, no, stop, it's over.
Yeah.
And then, whatever reason, I must have bit my gum because my mouth was all bleeding from the inside.
Like, what's that feeling like when like your body just fails you from like taking a blow like that? I mean, it must just be like almost like an outer body experience, I would imagine.
That fight for me was what really made me get my arse in gear, because I'd actually went into that fight after losing 12 fights in a row, and I went into that fight, got knocked out, and then I was at home after, and I'm pretty sure I was greeting at the time. I thought, I can either take this seriously or just not, because you can't play about it.
Was that the moment that you really had to look at yourself in the mirror and it was like, it's either go time or time to give this up? Do you know what I mean?
So that would have been 2013. And then after that fight is when I went on, I was on like 5-fight win streak, and that at the end of that streak was Josh Taylor. So it went from being knocked out pretty much a year prior, and then I won 5 fights. We entered into the championships, won my first fight, and that's when I came up against Taylor. It's not bad.
Yeah, definitely not, mate. 100%.
Yeah, that's
like,
really good.
Like the things that you're doing at the moment are fucking great on that, and like, and if that Scottish title fight, I obviously don't want to look too far ahead because you've got to get through the next fight and whatnot, but that Scottish title fight happens in Elgin, that is going to be absolutely mad. Like, I would imagine they'd have to expand like the capacity or something like that.
I don't think there'll be
probably go to the
bigger
sports
sports event locally, apart from like obviously the obvious football and things like that. I can't think of another sports event locally that would be as big as that of a Scottish title.
Because I've got a reasonably big fan base. Fraser Wilkinson's got a big fan base as well, and there's obviously some mutual fan, but the bulk of it is different fans. So two of us would, I would probably sell the place out, but the two of us would definitely.
Yeah.
He would sell the place out. I would sell it, and put us both on the same card. It would just be.
People are just going to be running for tickets. Yeah.
Would you fight a teammate to get to where you need to be?
Yeah.
Great, love it.
Yeah.
Aiden was a total opposite. He's like, nah, they're my pals. Don't want to fight them.
But to be honest, like I say, teammate, I would never fight anyone from Elgin. Well, one, because it's only me and Fraser that are pros, and we're in different weight classes.
Yeah.
But when you look at like my team, it would be like my stable kind of thing. There's fighters there that if needed be, then I wouldn't feel bad about beating.
Yeah. Can you like? I mean, does it not just come naturally, or can you just like switch that side, like you off, like, oh, I know that person, or I've trained with them, or whatnot?
I've never been like in that situation for real. I've never had to fight.
Yeah.
So I think if I did an amateur at all. No, I don't think I have. But like sparring, you know what to do in sparring.
Yeah.
You never like take the piss, but if it's a fight,
it's still a bit of a different ballgame in front of people and stuff like that. Is that the plan to get this next one? Get it, go ahead, get the win, get to 6-0 Scottish title fight, Elgin towards the end of the year.
Hopefully, if I could have 2 fights before that, just to get the momentum really going. Get the one in June if I get on it, then one maybe August, and then the title fight in October, November.
Sweet, man.
Amazing. Well, we're almost at the end of the hour. Passes so quickly these days. It's unreal.
Do you want to give any of your sponsors a shout?
Yeah.
I was going to say I've got a fair few. I'll have to remember them all. Rob, RCJ Joiners. He's been with me from the start, along with Jason Grant, building contractors. They've all been involved with the boxing club. Kenny McRae, Helen Teasdale. She does my sort of physio sort of stuff. Kevin McAloon, Moray Sports Massage, keeps me supple, and my sister-in-law as well. She gives me massages. Bellamy Therapies. CrossFit Moray. I do a lot of my fitness work. CrossFit Moray, and for anyone, if you've never done CrossFit or if you've never done it, I would highly recommend going to it. It really does just bring you to the next level. Sheriff Mill, my old work. Well, I was there for 11 years. I boxed throughout, and they've always supported me.
Still like a big supporter of you now, even though that you've took up the car race.
Elgin Artificial Grass and Resin Service is another one of my sponsors. Me and Charlie know each other. We've known each other for years. And when he started up his business, said he was always going to sponsor me. We've shared a lot of rounds sparring, and we've knocked fucking lumps out of each other for a good few years. It's probably my favourite person to punch in the ribs.
That's a great plug.
So, one final question before we let you go. We've kind of asked this to every combat sports athlete that's came on. Do you think that if you hadn't gotten involved with combat sports, like your life maybe went a different way? Do you reckon that it's helped you keep out of trouble in that in the long term and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, yeah. I've never been without it, so I would. The closest I came to that was like lockdown, not knowing if I was ever going to fight again, and I don't know what I would have if I didn't get back training and get back in the ring. I would have probably put on another 3 stone. Yeah,
I've been there, mate, trust me. But do you think what kind of time limit do you have on your career?
Well,
we asked Aidan this. We got to the point where like nobody wants to be that washed up fighter. You know
exactly. Yeah.
Is that the case that you're going to get as far as you can until you get to the stage where you think there's nobody worth fighting anymore? It's just
well, yeah. I've given myself a few more years. Anyway.
Yeah, at least
I want the Scottish title.
Mm-hmm.
That's like I want the Scottish title fight. So anything after that is a bonus.
When you look at the average age of a boxer at the top of their game these days, though, it's mid-30s to 40s, you know.
I've got a fiance at home and a daughter now. She's
congratulations, by the way.
I've got them to think about.
Yeah.
And obviously my business as well. I'm expanding that in the next few months as well. So,
do you want to give it a plug?
Smart Kart Raceway Activity Centre.
Well, cheers.
Formerly Elgin Kart Raceway, but I took over last year.
How's it? Is it all going fine and stuff like that? Business booming and whatnot.
Yeah, I had 3 stag do's in today.
Some Saturday. No wonder you're held up.
2 tomorrow. 2 groups of 17 today, and then there's a group of 10 as well. I've got a group of 10 tomorrow and another group of 16 tomorrow as well. So
business is booming.
Aye.
Yeah.
statues, birthday parties. I'm doing axe throwing next month as well. It's going to be an activity available. So keep an eye out for that.
Aye, definitely.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, I mean, great to hear everything's going well for you, mate. And I'll be trying to get a ticket to that Scottish title fight at the end of the year, and that everyone will be. So we'll see who
exactly
comes off or not. But cheers for your time today, dude.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No worries at all.